All right, so we'll get started now. I'm going to presentation mode. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the panelists. Welcome to Jana, Boris, and Ansgar to this webinar. Welcome to all the participants. We're happy to have you here today to talk about customer experience. Is automation a friend or foe of customer experience? That's the topic we'll address today in this webinar. Just to go through the agenda of today, take just a few minutes to introduce the speakers' backgrounds, where they come from, then set the scene around the discussion about what is customer experience, but also has it changed lately, what is driving the changes, how are consumer behavior evolving at the moment, all around the topic of digitalization, quite logically also. Then we have a short keynote of Boris, which will talk to us about his experience as a senior executive managing teams for high-ticket selling, how can we use automation and technology to help convert more clients. Then we have a presentation of Ansgar, which will present us topics around machine learning and artificial intelligence. How can we use AI and machine learning within a company without spending millions, and what can it bring as a result? Then we have Jana, which will speak to us about Freshworks. Who is Freshworks? What does it do as a solution? And how does it help along this discussion, customer experience? And then we have a Q&A session with everyone to have an open debate about the different topics we discussed today. Right, first, I'll let Jana maybe start and present herself.
Thanks, Yves. Yeah, well, thank you for the brief introduction. Thank you for attending today's session. My name is Jana Czerny. I'm Strategic Channel Sales Manager with Freshworks. I manage our partner network in the DACH region, and for that, obviously, I'm working closely with Brandfinity and with Yves. I am quite happy to be here, quite happy to be presenting some of our nice tools around how to engage with customers more easily, but more about that later during my part of the presentation.
Thank you, Jana. Then we go from A to B. We start with Ansgar.
Hi, I'm Ansgar. I'm the CEO of Goldblum Consulting. Goldblum Consulting AI. We're the outsourced director AI. That's the motto of our consultancy agency. I'm doing that apart from actually my other job, where I work and manage companies myself. So it's not a consultancy. It's a consultancy by experience. And yeah, even if I learned, we're going back since our Swiss times together. So you know, we know each other from the early 2012s. And I'm very happy to be here today and to a little bit unpack the buzzwords of AI and ML and help you all to, you know, to get a grasp on all these buzzwords and how to have successful AI projects.
Thank you, Ansgar. Boris?
Yes, hello, everyone. My name is Boris Padovan. Welcome to this webinar. I think it's a very interesting subject. Just a little bit about my background. I worked with Swissair for quite some time, and I've always worked in sales, and then in the end in selling complex IT solutions to a worldwide customer community of airlines and airports. So I have been heading global teams, managing teams, and was always suffering about sales processes and sales automation, and also saw the evolution during my 20 years of career from Excel spreadsheet-based pipeline management to more fancy solutions. Ivala asked me to join and share a little bit my experiences, my frustrations, and the successes you have in sales management using tools. And I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to sharing my thoughts, but also to getting your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Boris. Just a word about myself. So I'm a co-founder of a digital marketing agency, which is called Brandfinity, as you can see in the back. Brandfinity does help its clients to build advanced digital narratives, basically building customer journeys and crafting personalized digital journeys for their clients using technology like Freshworks, and basically getting more sales at the end for its clients through marketing tactics, but also technology-driven solutions. Right, just as an introduction to the topic today, which is customer experience, but also the changes which are happening in this world through the pandemic, and that's a statement of the Steve Hasker, CEO and President of Thomson Reuters, which I found relevant. Basically, due to the pandemic, we saw a big acceleration of digital transformation because people have had to change their behaviors, and therefore companies had to adapt to these changes. And what he says that in a few months, we saw a transformation path which would have otherwise taken 3 to 4 years. And that's really, I think, relevant to today's world and brings us to the discussion. I'm sure all the marketing and sales people know what is a funnel, and the classical funnel you will see on the left-hand side, which always start with, you certainly remember the IDA model in the past, which has evolved a few more steps in between. But we used to describe it as being a linear journey from A to Z via different steps. But actually, it looks more like the right-hand side you see, the messy picture, because people have more and more tools, solution, media, touch points available to inform themselves before they make a choice. And I think that's not only for B2C, it's also for B2B. And basically the classical step-by-step journey in a funnel, as we see it in CRMs, is over. And so is the way to address the needs. And if you have time, I'll send a slide deck after this webinar also. There's an interesting study which has just been made recently by Google in the UK market, explaining a bit more about this messy middle, which is basically a complete change of consumer behaviors, accelerated by the fact that people are more and more online and less and less physical, and therefore the way they purchase products and services is also changing. And the messy middle is really growing and changing the way people behave, as I said. And what you see on your left-hand side, there's a trigger. It can be advertising, it can be a physical contact, it can be an interest of buying a product, it can be a search on Google. Many things can trigger an interest to buy. And then people go into a loop of exploration and evaluation, which goes round and round. Can be long, can be short, depending on I guess the price of the product or service they want to buy. And then comes the purchase. And the way people are buying today has changed also. The criteria of decision is changing, and that's what you see on the left-hand side. There's more and more looking into social proof. Basically, people are looking for social saying of people, being recommendation platform, being friends, being influencers, whoever is a social importance of these people. Looking for authority because you don't have a physical contact anymore with your clients. As a company, you need to build authority online, so be visible and be transparent in the way you expose what you sell or what you offer as a product. There's an interesting point on this study around scarcity, meaning if there's a limited availability, people have more and more tendency to buy it. So it impacts the fact that people will buy it. Everyone is living in the now more and more, and we all live like that now at the moment. We don't know what's going to be tomorrow. So today is today, and today we take a decision, and it's important in the way we approach the way we basically expose messages to the clients. Important also to understand the trends, and people do like gifts even more now than before. So that's a few elements of this study which are interesting in the way the pandemic and the fact that people cannot always go physically anymore to a place to buy something, and they buy more and more online. So are the behaviors and the triggers of buying changing. In the B2B, and I'm sure Boris can tell a story about that, and so Ansgar also, I guess, and also Jana, because you also sell to B2B clients. It's been difficult because we've been used to talk to people, to see people, to meet people, to have a lunch with people, and that time is, for the moment, at least over. So how do you rethink your personal relationship with your prospecting clients? It needs to be over WhatsApp, over message, email. How do you manage that new relationship? How do you nurture your clients along the path of conversion? And how do you want to automate that or not? What also is important, because you don't have this opportunity to meet people physically at fairs or at events or in meetings, in breakfast or whatever you organized before, it is important to understand more and more, because you have an email address and a name and maybe a company, but how do you get more insights about your clients by enriching the contact with data can be very interesting. And finally, the study says that in a B2B, it's important to create transparency, because people need transparency. With the uncertainty of not being able to meet people, if you're not transparent in the way you offer your services or your pricing or any elements like that, it will be a limitation to your capability to convert possible B2B clients. So a few elements which are important, accelerated by the pandemic, and also we need tools to manage all that. The final one, I won't play the video, but it's interesting to see. Here you see the status of the popular social networks back in 2011, Q2, where Facebook had about 800 million users. I think we have more than 2 billion now. And Qzone was number 2. LinkedIn had 84 million people. It's about 600 million now. So there's a complexity. And as a marketeer, I see myself managing clients' budget for paid media. People are more and more scattered over different medias, and they consume more and more medias, and therefore it's difficult to touch these people on this media and measure your results. So data is critical to that, because you need to be present on more and more platforms to reach your future customers. So the debate was around automation against customer journeys and customer experience. Does automation make sense? Is it useful, or is it a nonsense, because there's nothing like shaking hands and meeting people? And talking through different cases and over times, one thing which is important to understand, face-to-face and meeting people personally or with a phone, or let's say the one-on-one conversation is very important, but it will depend on different elements. First one is how much can you invest to acquire your clients? So what is the customer lifetime value of your customers? Can you invest into one-on-one relationship, or do you need to create automation to reach him? How can you optimize your funnel along the journey? Is there leverage potential from an interest to someone who has signed up for becoming a lead to an offer stage to he becomes a client? What is the size of your funnel, and how much percentage can you basically make evolve and convert more people in your funnel? That's an important element to think of before you start investing into automation. What is the length of your journey? Is it an intuitive, impulsive buy? Therefore, there's not much you can automate into the journey, because people are coming to a place and buy it straight away. So there might be just a limited capability of automating things and creating a differentiated customer experience. It depends also on the funnel size, the resources available, and the data volume. Basically, it's a mix of elements which will create a criteria of definition of how much automation you will put in place, how much personalization you will put in place in the journey, and is it economically viable. And one point which will be certainly one of the key elements of the presentation of Ansgar is, do you have enough data volume to automate things and to personalize? Does it make sense for you to create models, segment your audiences? How do you want to approach your entry of the funnel? And can you automate that because you have enough data to make a forecast model, or all these elements which are coming into the automation building of a customer experience. One other important element, which what you see here on the screen is basically a customer journey of a financial services client, talking of pension fund. How do you onboard a client and what are the different stages? And what is interesting in many cases is that there is always at the moment or in multiple moments in the journey an interaction with a person or with an email or with a call or things like that. And basically, these people are normally coming from the sales space. Well, as a marketeer, you look more into content and how you push the content to the people. And actually, the journey, the experience of the customer is a single experience. He doesn't care if it's marketing or sales addressing their needs. They really want to have one customer experience with one company, and therefore, if you want to have a good customer experience, and because the journeys are getting more and more complex, and we talked about the messaging wheel before, if you don't put the sales and marketing together to manage that journey, it won't happen. And basically, the customer experience will be bad, and so your conversion rate and your sales. So it is more and more critical to bring the two teams in one, or actually to create only one team managing the journey to make sure you can create the kind of customer experience your clients would expect. Right, that's it for the, let's say, the introduction part into what is moving into the consumer behaviors, but also what are the elements important to think before you create automation, and also where does it make sense, but also it's also a culture change and a team change and organization change which needs to happen in the company. So I stop sharing and I'll let Boris take over and share his screen.
Just unmute. Okay, thanks for the opening, Evelyn. It was very interesting. Yeah, Evelyn asked me to share a little bit my thoughts and my experience I have made in my by now 20 years of being in sales management. Let me just summarize a little bit my thoughts and also see where sales automation has helped me, is still helping me, and where I still see some gaps on what can be done and cannot be done. So what is the environment I'm working in? I have always headed international sales teams, and international sales teams means that in the last role, I had sales team with sales guys anywhere in between Bangkok and Denver. And they were mainly selling, or 100% selling, IT for aviation, for airlines and for airports. Also airlines and airports, they need IT. And we are focused very much on very industry-specific IT solutions, and they are super, super highly complex. So it's not that we provide some kind of cloud services or simple desktop arrangements. Now we provide highly complex IT solutions for airlines, for instance, to distribute or to manage passenger flows at airports. And it's a niche market. It's a niche market in both areas. Sometimes there are not even 5 suppliers globally with which we are competing. It's always the usual suspects. And also the group of companies that can be your customer is relatively limited because there are not too many airports around, and for solutions there are not too many airlines around. So we are maybe talking about a total customer audience of less than 1,000 with 5 suppliers. But the procurement process, or the sales process and the procurement process, is very, very complex. It's very, very locally driven, especially in places where you have government ownership or public ownership of the customer. You go through public tenders, you go through public procurements. Sales cycles are super, super long, and you are always a little bit in the problem that you have all eggs in one basket. So you have one big deal which will make your financial year numbers, make your targets, or you won't make it. So it's very hard also to have a good portfolio of funnel and to have a good portfolio of deals in different stages. The sales team I'm heading is around 30 people. And what we decided from a sales team perspective is to manage the team based on geographies. So within the geography, you may have 1 or 2 sales individuals, and geography can be a group of countries. Like, for instance, Jana is responsible for Germany, Austria, Switzerland. They manage a certain amount of countries. And in smaller regions, they have to look after all the different solutions we are providing. In larger regions, we can also split there within a geography between the different solution lines we are having. And we have made the experiences that having local sales is absolutely essential. It's the usual issues you have with sales. You know, they need to address time zones. The language barriers are very, very big, especially when you look into Asia Pacific, where, for instance, in mainland China, you usually have problems with English speaking skills. There is a big component of cultural awareness, and cultural awareness I would categorize into how does the local market work, but also what are the do's and don'ts during a sales process, how you approach people, how you talk with people, and how you actually close contracts and close transactions. But this also led to the situation, and now after sharing the background, this also leads to the situation of the challenges we have. With these highly diverse teams all over the globe, you simply cannot manage them. So you really need to manage them purely by objective. And the sales executives, they enjoy lots of autonomy. They are responsible for their own geography. They are measured against their targets. But the issue has always been is how transparent is actually everything. Because me as a sales manager, I need to be aware how my pipeline looks like, what the closing rate is, where we stand on specific deals, what specific customer requirements are. You need to do this for around 30 people. Each person has about 5 deals. And you need to have an up-to-date, complete, transparent overview on the process on a high level, but also on, at least for the strategic deal, on a deal-by-deal level. And how do you achieve this? And this has always been the problem we work with. So when I started 20 years ago, we did everything in Excel. Yeah, and I still see lots of companies doing their sales management and their funnel management completely in Excel. And it's a nightmare. It has never worked. And it was really more like the spaghetti hairball, which Yves Alain shared in one of his earlier slides, instead of a very, very structured, transparent, and predictable process. So I started introducing about 10 to 12 years ago sales tools, sales automation tools, and I've worked with numerous tools. I worked with Alain will probably kill me now. Yeah, I worked with HubSpot, or currently I'm using HubSpot. Yeah, there is Salesforce, and you name them all, and they all do a very, very good purpose, because they help you as a sales leader to come to some kind of sales automation, which is again a very big challenge, because we are not talking in the business to consumer market. We are working in a business to business market with sometimes a very unhealthy portfolio of opportunities you have to drive. And so you have all this complexity on the side of the customer, but of course also within your own organization, where as a sales leader, you are the link to the outside world. You also have a very complex internal organization. And this is also something which we saw from a deal approval perspective through sales automation tools or through sales tools, because we have a super, super complex approval governance, which is driven by sales in my role, but also by product management, because product management very often owns profit and loss. Although sometimes they're not even speaking to customers, but they own profit and loss. And you always have those delivery guys that in the end need to be in the front line and deliver what sales promised, what product management is trying to produce, and they need to bring it to the customer. So there are in itself lots of different interests and target settings, within these three different groups in a professional organization: sales, product management, delivery. And sales automation here in this case, for instance, drives a complete deal approval process for us, where we jump from step to step during a sales process, have reviews, either have the reviews in form of conference calls for big deals. Pre-corona, we even had the reviews face-to-face because it was kind of a workshop atmosphere. But sometimes it's just an automated process where people have to click approve in order to go ahead with the deal, especially if the deal is not strategic and still in a very, very young stage, more in the qualification area. This comes to maybe not the point forecasting, but it's all about pipeline management, and I will talk about forecasting in a minute. Pipeline management is probably still one of the core businesses you do through sales automation, that you have a very exact view on how is your pipeline developing, how has your pipeline developed, and you also have lots of historical data. You have lots of historical data on deal closure. Yves Alain also mentioned earlier, sales cycles is very, very important, because where is a sales guy always, always, always wrong? And if I say sales guy, I of course also include all the female salespersons. So don't get me wrong here. They are always wrong when it comes to predicting when a deal will close. You have slippage by slippage by slippage, and the sales automation tool, a good sales automation tool, can give you behavioral patterns of how has the deal slippage been in the past with this individual, with this group of airlines, in this geography, with this group of solutions. So you have on one hand side the forecast from a deal closing perspective of the sales individual. You have experiences with the sales individual, but you also have sales automation tool that give you at least an early warning and say, okay, there is a complex process ongoing. This has been the traditional times to close it. And maybe you will not be able to close it in 5 weeks. Maybe you will not even able to close it in 5 months. Just to open the bracket here, our sales cycle is anywhere between 1.5 years and 3 years for such solutions. And then it comes really to the point I was skipping earlier, which is forecasting. You know, you sit on top of the sales team and get all the input from everybody, and you need to provide a proper forecast. You need to provide a proper forecast, not only for TCV, total contract value closure, you also need to provide a proper forecast for revenue, because this is really key in the company. And that's also where sales automation tools can help a lot, from a new business perspective or from a perspective of business which has not been signed yet. The sales process, comes closely together with approval process. It comes closely together with the pipeline management. But I think also what we've learned is that sales automation can also help you about the prediction about readiness to buy. And maybe Ansgar, you can share more about this later, because I think this is also something where tools have to learn, maybe in the way of artificial intelligence by themselves. Prediction about readiness to buy. So if you get all the information from your customer, if you have them at all touch points and collect all data, if you measure response times by customers, if everything is properly documented by the sales individuals, either manually or by the sales automation tool automatically, for instance, when customers are hitting touch points, have they opened your email, what kind of marketing campaigns have they been on, and to which extent did they even look into your marketing campaigns. I think you can come to a situation simply by behavioral patterns with traditional learning of giving you a good prediction. Is the customer really ready to buy? Yeah, or are we still in some kind of a window shopping experience? Performance management. This is now again something strictly from a pure governance perspective within a sales organization. I think a sales automation tool is very important to have proper performance management. And I'm not talking about black and white performance management only, where at the end of a financial year, you see has the poor individual met the target, not met the target, overachieved the target. For this, you do not need a sales automation tool. You just need a calculator, a pocket calculator. But I think it's also that a sales automation tool should measure the interaction and the assessment an individual sales guy has in his target community, to see also some kind of conversion rates, not only conversion rates of coming to contract signature, but also of conversion rates of having client interaction properly set. And what we also now started to use is target setting for based on sales automation, because target setting is always a traditional experience. How has it worked with the sales individual? How is the overall geography performing? What is the current pipeline showing, and what are the big trends coming into the industry, which will help you with target setting exercises? Of course, now in Corona days, target setting is a little bit of a tough exercise, but this is actually how I, as a leader of a global sales team, have worked with sales automation tools. That's also how I have actually seen the evolution away from an initial Excel spreadsheet. Then we had some home-built tools in Sita, a company I worked before, which were fit for purpose, but had, for instance, no prediction, no customer relationship element, up to moving to more professional tools, which came from the outside world. I just mentioned 2 examples, but I'm very convinced that also the system we are talking here about might be a very good solution here. But you need this. For sales management, you need to have a proper tool, because a tool also enforces a process. And you can only do organized selling if it's process driven, and you need to have the transparency of what's going on in your market. That's it now from my side. I hope I did not too much overspend my time, and I'm happy to take any questions later, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you for everybody else.
Thank you, Boris. Very insightful. Yes. Although you do high ticket face-to-face selling, as you say, automation is quite critical to success. So that's interesting to hear and confirms what we talked about earlier. All right, so I'll give the word now to Ansgar without waiting. Let's hear about AI and machine learning. Sorry if I haven't been perfectly setting the right buzzwords, Ansgar, but I'm sure you will set it right back now.
All right, perfect. So, yeah, I called this unpacking artificial intelligence because these are buzzwords, especially in our industry. We're all using, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, automation, and I thought, to build a good house, we start with the fundament, and so the question first is, we are not talking about artificial intelligence, but intelligence. What is actually intelligence we are talking about right now? And Gartner, very famous intelligence researcher, he said, it's the ability to solve problems or create products which are valued in a culture. And basically this definition gives you already the guideline, what you should do and what you shouldn't do. We had experience with somebody, for example, where their engineers, they did predictive maintenance, and they did all the sensors in the product, and then they developed something. They developed something where they could predict if the product is getting broke or not. But then they found out, after spending hundreds of thousands of euro, that the product actually has such a high quality that it never breaks. Right. So the engineers were happy for 2 years, but there was actually no problem. And also the other thing where it says it has to be valued in a culture. I have to stress this over and over again. Every project costs money. And if you can't predict your return on investment on any AI project, you shouldn't do it. And where does the word AI actually comes from? It's almost 65 years old. It was created in a Dartmouth conference, 1956. And you see this guy in the middle, Marvin Minsky. He was the founder of the AI Institute at MIT. And if you think about it, 65 years old, this term, why haven't we seen self-driving cars in the 70s or in the 80s? And what we are talking about when we talk about AI or machine learning, we are talking about the modern approach to machine learning, and that was coined roughly around 2006, where the neural net research got rebooted as a deep learning. And then you had the Netflix prize, and then Watson was winning. IBM's Watson was winning the Jeopardy. But the big breakthrough we had 2012, and this is not, it's just 8 years ago, where at a conference, an NIBS conference, you had suddenly an algorithm which could do facial recognition 20 times faster. And when Google Brain suddenly, with these kind of algorithms, detected human faces and images. And that was our breakthrough, because in the last 65 years, we had so-called AI winters, even where for 10 years, nothing happened. And we were always running in the wrong direction. But now with deep learning, suddenly all the things in what we thought might be possible already in the 50s and 60s is possible now. And so that's why since 2012, we see things like Alexa, Google Translate, driverless cars, chatbots, facial recognition from Facebook, and personalized shopping and so on. And this is a very, very young development, 8 years right now, but it's based on 400 years of research when we start with 1642. So why do you think that deep learning is now? Well, there was a breakthrough with the algorithms. This is one thing, but the other things were they had large amount of data. And please keep that in mind, because every time you want to do an AI project in your company and you don't have any data, or maybe just random Excel sheets, which we also often hear, that's not enough data. And you also need computational power. That's why we had all the discussion about the cloud or software as a service, like, for example, the Salesforce or Freshworks family. And then the other thing is that the large models are also easier to train right now, because if you have large amount of data, you have big data probably, and you want to train them, it's not easy to do that. But now with the advances in mathematics, we can do that. So how do you get started now with an AI project without wasting money? First of all, we have to differentiate between the word data-driven and process-driven things. Because what we see also in managing teams or in sales forecasts or in sales activities, a lot of things are process-driven, which don't have anything to do with data. So in the process-driven world, we have something like robotic desktop automation, where you can train programs to repeat a task. For example, open a website, download the newest sales data from the competitor and write it into your Salesforce or Freshworks. So this is a process driven. And so we can automate processes if we want. So we have robotic desktop automation. It's like an automated secretary or intern. And then you have a robotic process automation. There's a second step. And then only on the third and fourth step, when it comes to be data driven, then we are in the realm of machine learning and AI. Yeah, so AI is an overly term, but machine learning can be a simple forecast. You don't need deep learning for a simple forecast. That's something what a normal psychology student or economy student learns in the first semester. A normal regression. That's not even machine learning, because the system is not learning from the experience of the data it's getting in. So we have to differentiate that, right? So something is sometimes only business intelligence, where you don't even need machine learning for. But we see nowadays, and the weird thing is that it's a process which is getting worse than better, that right now up to 70% of any AI project they're doing in a company is failing. And they didn't know
we lost Ansgar on his path to a successful artificial intelligence process. I hope we get him back in a second. Let's wait one more minute. Yeah, we lost definitely Ansgar. So let's wait 1 more minute. If he doesn't get back to us, then we'll move on to the next topic and we'll leave the floor to Jana. Yeah, I guess we'll do that. And if he comes back, then we'll have him on again and finish his walk us through his process of a successful AI project. So yeah, now I'll let you take over and basically introduce us to what we prepared as a discussion towards, let's say, a solution which will help or would help Boris, which would help me as a marketer because I can automate a few touch points and basically bring also marketing and sales team together, because that's what we need to do to have a good customer experience when we want to acquire clients through multiple messy middle touch points.
Absolutely, absolutely. Happy to take over. And it feels a bit like a cliffhanger with Ansgar's presentation. So I'm sure we'll get back to that very soon. Yeah, well, from my side, I'd like to introduce to you, let's say, the solution that we have. And I see that he's just connecting to audio back again. Should we resume with his presentation, or? Yeah,
Sorry.
maybe that makes sense.
That makes sense. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, sorry, my internet just broke down. That's what Berlin is all about. So let me share my screen.
Yeah, so we'll let you finish on your process of successful artificial intelligence project.
Yes. So you see my screen now, right? Perfect. So what you do with an AI project? So you have these five stages, and define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And what a lot of people do, and that's why 70% of their projects fail, is they start with analyze. They want to apply any sort of algorithm, but that's not how it works. In normal business, you need to define the problems, you need to define the organization, you have to look into your organization. We had a client who hired 4 data scientists, and then after they were hired, he didn't know that somebody has to lead them, right? So then we have the measure phase, where it comes all the data, then analysis, improve, and control. For improve, there you apply the changes, where a lot of change management has to happen in a company. And control, and this was what a lot of people don't think about, that their models, once they're doing it, that they change over time. For example, if a company goes to another country and the country brings in new data, then with that new data, the model also changes. But if you don't adapt the model, then the model will be wrong. And so you have these 5 stages, this DMAIC method, and this DMAIC method comes from the Lean Six Sigma organizations. Over 1,000 organizations worldwide went together and wrote a book of knowledge, how to do an effective project. So like Coca-Cola, IBM, General Motors, they all came together. So, and then if we think now, with our example right now today, how do we manage sales teams? How do we qualify leads? Or how do we do forecast? So the first thing what we are doing, you have to ask yourself, why are you actually doing that? And I have to stress that because the why is very, very important. You have only 3 reasons why you do it. Cost leadership, you want to be more cost effective. You want to be differentiated. That means you want to have better services, or you want to focus on a niche market. So these are the 3 things you have to answer. If not one of these 3 answers your question, why do you use AI, then you shouldn't do it. And what you see here, because we have several industries here, on the left side, you see the problem type. And you saw my definition about intelligence, you solve problems. But per industry, the problem type is different. And it's also different even in a sales department for these industries. For example, when you see the problem type process unstructured data at the bottom, it's very, very important for media, because media gets a lot of unstructured data. If I'm going to a healthcare department and saying, do you also want to have unstructured data? Then they say, well, yes, but if you work to talk to pharmaceuticals, then they don't. So based on your industry, you will have different problems which need different approaches in AI. And so when you go to your organizational side, you have to understand, what do you actually want? Do you want to have a tool where you use AI just as a tool? For example, you have in Salesforce or in the Freshworks family, you have additional AI models. So you don't, that's the most easiest way, and that's what most people start with, because you don't need any machine learning operations in your company. You don't need any other thing. You can just add it to your software as a service solution and pay a little bit more money. But a lot of companies, they need to do something more. They need AI as a collaborational tool, as an assistant, for example, in a chatbot, or they want to have AI as a peer for yourself. Like the Lemonade insurance, they have they agree all claims in a certain parameter, and only the parameters out, the claims outside the parameter, a human is actually working on. So that would be also, when you're selling something, that would be a differentiation aspect for you to use AI, because you're the insurance who can, give the client money within 5 seconds. Or you use AI as a manager tool, where you use it as a traffic light, or as in a call center, where you tell the call center agent what to do. And just to give you an overview, we don't have to go through all these roles, but these are some roles which you need if you have to have an AI project inside your company, except you're just using it as a tool. You're not using it just a data scientist. You need project managers, subject matter experts, AI software developers, machine learning operators, the DevOps side and software, machine learning side here. All these roles you need when you're like me in pharma, in the pharma industry, where you're in the GXP framework. You need definitely somebody who knows legal and compliance and privacy law. So these are all aspects you have to consider before you even start spending €1. And the last, and when it comes to the data, there are these 4 main questions I always ask my customers all the time. Is your prediction you're trying to make complex enough to warrant machine learning in the first place? Sometimes, and this is also for the sales environment or for marketing environment, we don't need machine learning. Business intelligence would be enough. Descriptive data would be enough. Only if you have really complex ideas, you start to do statistics, linear statistics, nonlinear statistics, and then machine learning. And the second thing is, do you have new data and clean data? I mean, a lot of people, when they're working in sales, they don't have time to fill out all the fields in the software. But if they don't fill out the fields, we don't have the data to do that. Or like Yves Alain, when they're working with social media, they have so many unstructured data or so many wrong data which might come in, over the API. That's a big, big problem. And the other thing is, if you have data, do you have existing labels to help the machine make sense of it? If you don't have this, if you have 2 million data sets and none of them is labeled, you have a big problem. So that comes in the field of data engineering. And the last thing is, can your solution afford for some allowance of error? When if you put a customer maybe in the wrong group, that might be okay. But if you're working for pharmaceutical company, or like us in cancer research, then error can mean death. So just to end this, what we see here, the general perception of efforts for AI project is the little brown thing for the 5 minutes, for the 5%. And the other 95% is everything around. And if you want to have a successful AI process or project, then you have to consider these other 95% too, to become a successful AI-ready company. Good. That's my 15 minutes.
Thank you, Ansgar. Great. And that's a lead way also to Jana. We started already before, but we'll give her back the voice now. So yes, as you were saying, there's different levels of AI and machine learning in different companies. And what we'll see from Freshworks is that they have some AI capabilities, which is actually a dog called Freddy, which helps with a bit of let's say simple AI, as you say, Ansgar, to automate and give insights on certain elements around CRM and marketing innovation, because that's what Freshworks does well.
Thanks for the intro. and let's get right into it. As Boaz was talking, one of the requirements he mentioned was transparency and highlight the possibility to highlight important deals. And this is one of the things that really we have in place with our Freshworks CRM. But I'm skipping ahead of things. Let me first quickly introduce Freshworks to you, so you know where I come from and what we have in store, and then we'll have a closer look on the product that I wanted to get into today. We as Freshworks have a vision. We want to enable every team to deliver moments of wow. And how do you want to do that? Well, we want to provide everyone with a software. Basically, that's for all organizations of all sizes. And with that, make it refreshingly easy for them to engage with customers. We were founded in 2010 out of our office in Chennai. But a lot of things changed since then. Back then we were called Freshdesk, now we're called Freshworks, mostly because we basically outgrew the name with regards to the products that we're currently offering. We now have a global presence with our headquarters in San Francisco, still people sitting in Chennai, mostly the technical people, but we also have teams in London, Sydney, and Berlin, and even though it's not on the slide, also in Paris and in Amsterdam. Right now, we have round about 150,000 customers relying on us. As you can see, we have customers both from the old economy and new economy. And as we're moving forward, as we're building our products and making them ready for customers, we're always listening to our customers' feedback to implement tools and features that would make them even better and ready for any kind of demand or need they might have. Obviously, we're invested by different investors. One of them I want to highlight today is Capital G, which basically is no one else than Google. We're the first company out of North America to be funded by Google, so we're very, very proud of that. And as we're moving forward, we're also looking at other milestones along the way. Other milestones that could be acquisitions. As you can see, some of the logos here, we've acquired some companies over the past 10 years as they had technical expertise in fields where we needed to develop. That could be machine learning, artificial intelligence, and many more topics. So you might recall some of them. They're all now part of our products, part of the Freshworks family. Well, here we are. As you can see, these are not all the products that we currently have in place. We see ourselves as a system house with around about 11 software as a service solutions, all of them being in the area of oops, what did I do now? All being in the area of customer relationship management, support, and IT. So everything you would need in order to communicate with your customers more efficiently. What's the speciality of all those tools? Well, they all communicate with each other. So you can think of them as a platform covering all your needs, but they also communicate with tools outside the Freshworks universe, thanks to different integrations and APIs. We're basically able to provide you with a tool in which you can stay whenever you talk to your customer. And we've touched base on that, so I just want to complete the picture basically on the advantages that all Freshworks products bring. First of all, it's one platform for all your business needs. It will help you to unify the experience across teams, and is obviously scalable and fully loaded business software. It comes with a single sign-on, so it's one platform, one login, and it's of course secure and safe thanks to different authentications. And with that, it offers, or it makes it possible to work together on that could be tickets, that could be deals, any customer interaction that you can really think of. So it provides a superior flow of information across teams. There's no more siloed working. And with help of Freddie, obviously, this is not only for people working together, but really for the tool working with the teams. And for everyone who's interested in data security and privacy, obviously all our tools are GDPR compliant, and with data centers across the globe, the customer can really decide as to where the data should be stored. Now, today, as I said before, I'd like to concentrate on our Freshworks CRM, which was newly launched back in, I think, 4 weeks ago. So it's really brand new. It used to be called Fresh Sales. So it comes now with a lot of new features and a lot more automations. And that's what we'll concentrate on. But first, let's look at the question as to why Freshworks CRM. And before I go into detail, I want us to have a look at the image on the upper half of the slide. So if you look at the left-hand side, you would see a regular CRM where you would have to pull in lots of different tools. For example, if you want to call someone or if you want to track events, etc. Whereas when you look at Freshworks CRM on the right-hand side, you would see that it's one tool which is fully staffed with all the tools that you might need. And that's one of the major things really on why Freshworks CRM is such a nice tool to use. First of all, and now we'll switch to the lower part of the slide. It uses built-in email and phone tools powered by Freshworks if you want, but also with any other tool you might be using already. You will be able to find the best sales leads. That's thanks to sales scoring that we do. We have an indicator that shows the sales readiness of the customer. We've heard about that before, being one of the most needed features of a CRM nowadays. It will help you to have relevant conversations. It gives actionable insights. For example, a deep dive into the prospect's engagements level so that you can plan your conversation accordingly. And it will also track your buyer's journey in one place, so you have everything at a glance whenever you are preparing an interaction with your customer. And then it will obviously also help you to get smarter with email, meaning that you will have all the relevant customer information at hand and obviously full access to knowledge base thanks to Freddie AI. You remember the intro, the small dog, which helps everyone who uses a Freshworks product. And last but not least, on the list, we see that it will help you manage your sales pipeline better. It's the bread and butter of every salesperson, but Freshworks CRM will help you to easily track all deals in a deal card view. And you can quickly access any activity as, for example, making a deal or writing an email out of this deal card view without having to open the opportunity itself. And obviously, it's all being tracked in place. So all in all, Freshworks CRM comes with a lot of improvements and a lot of new features that not all CRM tools currently have. That would be, for example, customizations, productivity, communication, deal management, as mentioned before, and obviously all staffed with analytics. Of course, it's mobile, so you can access and manage your data from anywhere. But it also comes with 2 more improvements. And those 2 I want to have a closer look at together with you. One would be marketing automation, and the other one would be Freddie AI. So let's jump ahead to the next slide. And let's figure out as to why I should automate my marketing efforts. Well, first of all, the goal should be to find and engage your audience with automated workflows, behavioral segmentation, and end-to-end personalization. And how does Freshworks or Freshworks CRM help you here? Well, it will allow you to segment your customer base and to better target your audience. It will help you to easily create mailing campaigns by drag and drop. So it's a very easy interface that will allow you to adjust and set up your mailings on but not based on with the what you see is what you get way setup. It will help you to and this is actually one of the most important things. It will also allow you to automate the marketing journey by setting triggers, action controls, and that could be, for example, a welcome series, a re-engagement campaign, customer satisfaction surveys, an upsell campaign, or a purchase reminder. So all this is part of the Freshworks CRM. It will help you to actually get in touch with your customers and automate whatever kind of interaction you might have, so that you don't have to get into the specifics every time you want to engage with one of your prospects. How can Freddy and with that AI help you to be more efficient and to be better prepared when talking to a customer? Well, the easiest way probably would be to have a bot welcome visitors on your website, and with that gather all the information you would need in order to make this a proper lead. You can have your leads profile information then later on automatically enriched, since nothing is more painful than not having all the information you would need when reaching out to a new prospect. And as you're gathering all the information, you don't want to have any kind of duplicates. So you can have Freddy detect those, alert you, and either merge them or delete those which are no longer needed. And of course, Freddy can also help along the way. So if once you're in touch with a customer and you've set up meetings and reminders for yourself, Freddy will help you by keeping track of your contacts' vacation. So any rescheduling that might be needed can be done a lot easier. So you save a lot of time in going back and forth. And last but not least, Freddy will help you with important deal insights. We've heard that before as one of the requirements. It's very important to match your current deal with maybe any contact you've had before with a specific customer, but also to match it with your experience on other customers from the same industry, same company size, etc., to actually being able to forecast as to when the specific deal is going to be closed, or any other information that might be interesting along the way as you are working on this deal. And this is, I think, one of the most important thing that Freddy can help you with, apart from the deal insights, is that you can have Freddy help you concentrate on the most important deals and contacts, thanks to the predicted contact scoring. We've had that before. So whenever you are working with Freddy on your deals, he will go through historical data and he will assign a score to every contact, so you know which contact actually is worth it spending more time on as you're moving forward. Well, I hope this was an interesting overview for now on Freshworks CRM. If you have further questions, please feel free to either reach out to Eve or to myself. Happy to set up meetings for us to get in touch and to talk about this in more detail. And with that, I'll hand it over back to Eve to kick off the Q&A, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yes. Thanks a lot. I've discovered Freshworks CRM a bit more than a year ago, and I must say that because it's been developed quite recently, it's a recent company, so is the interface and the user experience as a user quite simple and quite intuitive, and it integrates quite well with a lot of solutions. So that's why we're talking today about that company, because I think it's an interesting solution in the market. So anyone having a questions, please raise your hands on the webinar, and I'll allow you to talk, as we say. I'll open you the mic so you can ask a question, or if you prefer to chat, put something to the chat. Happy to take your questions before we close down the session. All right, someone is raising hands. So Saber, hello Saber, you have.
Hi, Ivan. Thank you very much. Just a very quick question. It was a very interesting topic. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for the amazing presentation. I was wondering if you have anyone of the team that presenting has any example of AI implementation with an e-commerce system. That's what I'm focusing at the moment on. I understand that has been implemented on many different areas and industries. Just want to know the capability with API integration. That's all.
I guess I'll let you, Ansgar, maybe give you a point on that.
Yeah. Well, what we see the development in, especially in the CRM, in the e-commerce world, is that you have to imagine over the last years, the databases we had, they all looked like tables, they all looked like Excel, right? But then the marketeer, they want to have customer journeys on, they want to interact in the customer journey. So the customer journey looks like that, or what Eve was actually drawing, but the databases don't look like that. And that was the biggest problem we had over the last years. But then companies like Neo4j, they completely revolutionized the world, how databases are built. And they are looking now all like graphs. You know, you have like nodes and graphs and edges. And that actually kicked off a lot of implementation in e-commerce platforms, because now your data looks like a customer journey. And there are a lot of vendors out there who have, for WordPress, for Magento, for all the small stores and all big stores. So they have solutions for that, where you actually can take out the data out of your, then do something magical with it and push it back in. And so that's possible. Even if you have a big e-commerce website, you have to think about it to build it yourself, because, for example, like Zalando or other things, that makes much more sense to do that. But it's, this is the right time to do it.
Yeah, and maybe for me, something to add from an airline perspective. Saber, if you fly from A to B and there are 100 people in the aircraft, you can be 90% sure that nobody else paid the same price as you did. That's the old thing, how airline pricing is made. And that's also right now a process pretty much driven by artificial intelligence. Some airlines, for instance, a big German airline group with a yellow, so Lufthansa Group, they come to something which we call dynamic pricing. And dynamic pricing takes, if the data is available, a complete customer profile. They take the demand for the specific route. They find out how often you have shopped for a certain connection point to point with Lufthansa maybe. They give you a customer value, and then they give you a completely individualized pricing and completely individualized offering. And artificial intelligence here supports the process, because it's continuous learning for the systems to better identify you and to better have a good match on what is your willingness to pay, and where do you drop as a customer, or where do they get you as a customer. So usually airlines are a little bit conservative, a little bit legacy driven, but this would be one example also in kind of an e-commerce environment where you have artificial intelligence.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Based on my understanding, I can see that in the customer service and then this sort of ticketing or any other industry, AI made an impact. I haven't seen a tangible example on the product selling, let's say, AI. And I don't know if there is any necessity for that. That's why I'm browsing whether this is a new card I should be looking into to bring on the table. And if yes, how?
Oh yeah, if you think about it, the different areas of AI, when you think image recognition, huge thing. where people, if you're a woman, you're shopping more than a man. I mean, I'm a little bit, and a lot of things. My wife has that the clothes arrive and they don't fit, so, and then you send it back. It's a huge business deal. So if you have image recognition when it comes to shoes or the clothes, so the fitting, so that's one thing, image recognition. Or when you have, another thing for image recognition, I think it's called shoegazer, where people can upload pictures of, clothes or shoes they saw on the street, and then they match it to a shop. So that would be image recognition. Or what you also can see is that, but apart from what Boris said, when it comes to the pricing, that also when it comes to artificial intelligence for all the furniture companies, that there's a blend between laptop e-commerce and mobile e-commerce, where you can literally put your IKEA boxes in your room, So depending on what kind of technology you can look at, you can be sure that definitely 10 companies already did something with that, And like voice to text, text to voice, it's all e-commerce, yeah. Or Shazam, it's also when you have something where where you have hum a music and then you can buy it, and so that's when you come to e-commerce here in Berlin, they started it in the gastronomy industry and the food industry, that opens a complete different area for food combinations and histamine intolerance and calorie counting. So you have to really, when it comes to e-commerce, go to your industry, look exactly what you want to sell, and then we can find you a solution.
Very interesting. Well, thank you very much.
Right. Any other question before we close? Because it's slowly getting through times. It's 1:15 by 2 minutes. Any other question? Otherwise, we're just going to stop the recording and close the webinar today. Thank you to all the participants. Thank you to the panelists for joining and sharing so many insights about your own experience and knowledge and industries and about Freshworks. I'll send the recording to everyone per email afterwards, the one which were able to attendees and the ones which missed us. And I'll follow up per email also. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you. Thanks for your time, and meet you again soon, hopefully. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.